So welcome everyone to the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers Virtual Connection webinar series. Today, we're going to talk about internship programs. We're going to hear from three great universities around how they run internship programs for their entrepreneurship center. But first, just a quick intro. My name is Jeff Reed. I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship at Georgetown University, and you're here as part of our Virtual Connection series. It's just one of many things that GCEC is responsible for. For those of you who might be new, I'll just point out that this is an amazing organization where entrepreneurship center leaders, staff members, faculty, we come together, share what we do and learn from one another. We have an awards program, these virtual connection series, monthly newsletter, and one of our biggest programs, of course, is the annual conference coming up soon in October in Dallas, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the session. But welcome. I'm glad you're here today, and hopefully this is something you want to continue to be a part of. So that's what GCEC is all about, and we're really here to learn from one another. And today we have an amazing panel. We're going to have each of our three panelists spend a few minutes describing and sharing some slides about how they run their internship program. We'll have a little bit of Q&A with each one, and then at the end, we'll bring all three together for a discussion and Q&A. At any point during the program, we encourage you to use the chat function to add comments, post links, ask questions, and I'll ask the panelists to feel free to be active answering questions in the chat at any point when you're not actively presenting. So our panelists, you can see here on the screen, we're going to go in the order you can see. It's going to be Judy Iles of Iowa State University, then Mike Malloy, my colleague at Georgetown, and then we will close out with Emily Doyle from DePaul. So with that, I am going to take down my slides and turn it over to Judy Iles of Iowa State. Go, Judy. Judy, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Yes, go.
When I switch to the slides, I can't see anybody else, so that's fine. I'll muddle through here. So glad to be here today. It is 90 in Iowa, so a cool, comfortable 90 compared to some other places, but happy to share with you a couple of our programs, and I'm going to share two because there are two different programs that we have where we allow students to work with startups. One is our Ryman internship program, which was named because of a donor, and our student consulting program. And I'm just going to run through those, little different format, but great ways to get students engaged with startups. So our Ryman internship program started with a Kauffman grant back in 1997. It was established as a summer program. Students applied. We matched students to companies all over the state.
So Judy, I'm gonna interrupt real quick. We're not seeing your slides. So if you're sharing slides, we're not seeing them.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me try again. Because I'm on here, let me try that again.
I do like the sign behind you, though, that entrepreneurship is for everyone. It's a great slogan.
Thanks. Do you see now?
Yes.
And in the right view?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me back up. Two programs, Ryman and SciBiz Lab, and I'll talk you through both of those. Summer program, Kauffman grant, great experience for students, but I was matching students across the state, so it was logistically very challenging. Stipends wasn't a good model. The university wants more accountability. They want timesheets, and we were always looking for hosts matches across the state. So, and it also did not work well for our international students. So a couple years later, we had a couple donate $1 million to endow the program. He said, I love the idea of students working with companies, but let's help those startups right there at Iowa State. Let's make sure we pay the students well and give them experience working with our local technology companies. So we pivoted, reimagined the program, thinking of startups, how they have little funding to start with, but hopefully they're growing. We did a subsidized program. So the first semester, we would give them 100% funding for a student. And then we would, every semester, it would go from 75% that we would pay, and they would pay the 25 and vice versa, until ultimately they were picking up the students. Made it a year-round program because we heard from companies that They wanted students not just in the summer, but they had work all year round. So we set that up as a year-round program, focused it only on the companies here at the Research Park, companies or affiliates. We have about 100 and some companies here. We made the Entrepreneurship Center the employer, not the companies, because then international students could participate. And they do, and they love it. So it was a great program, but the accounting was complicated with all these different matches. The companies were starting to hoard summer interns because they could work more. They got more bang for their buck. It was a great endowed program that was going to last forever, but we had a limited number of internships because of the funding. So then we moved to another reimagination of the program. We had additional donors support startups with gifts, and we moved to a 50-50 matching program. So we pay for half the student's time and we keep them on our payroll. And then they are responsible for the other half. But the nice thing is our state has a STEM internship matching program as well. So we'll pay half, and then we encourage them to apply for the state funding, which is focused on STEM, but most of our companies are anyway. So the company still gets 100% of a student paid for. Students still get to work in the startup. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. So we've kind of sat with that model for a while. We have, anywhere from 20 to 30 to more students participating annually. We only allow a student to get funded for one semester, but if the company wants to hang on to that student, then we will keep them on our payroll and take care of that, because that's a huge hassle for the companies. And then we just bill them at the end of the semester for 100% of what they've done. And we're very flexible with how we work with them. And if they need partial payments, we'll allow them to do that. Because most of our small companies, they don't have staff to do payroll. It's probably one of the best benefits of the program is we take care of that for them. And they're more likely to hire our students because we make it easy for them. Our international students participate. They get work experience that they couldn't get otherwise. So it's pretty good. And then with the company staying on, or the students staying on, they get to stay with the company longer. So that leads to additional internships and many full-time offers for our companies or for our students, which is great. Another way we start or support our students in startups is through our SciBiz Lab, which is basically our student consulting or market research firm. And that started with a partnership we had with 3M. So we're in Iowa. Minneapolis is about 3 hours north of us. And we had a vice president there who was an Iowa State grad, and we would send business and engineering students up to work on market research projects for 3M. They'd go up at the end of the semester, present to the leadership at 3M, and they all got hired by 3M. It was great. That vice president retired, and the program kind of went away. So in the fall of 2013, we had a new dean come on board, and he saw two problems in the business college. The companies weren't engaging with the business college. It was a business college, but companies would call up and say, hey, can we have some students call a marketing professor? Can we have students work on a project? And if it didn't fit that professor's course or their research, that door kind of got closed. And so we established SciBiz Lab, similar to what we did with 3M, but for any company, as more of a portal for student engagement and company engagement. So the dean wanted more businesses to be involved with business college, and he wanted our students to have skill sets that when they graduated, they were going to get hired. And so SciBiz became that answer. So he was hired August 1st of 2013, and by September 1st, I had 4 MBA students working in a program. They named the program, we call it SciBiz because Sci is our mascot there. So we have a lot of Sci stuff at the university. But we started with 4 students, did 2 projects, and now we run probably 30, 40 projects annually. Just as an overview of the program, we hire undergrad and grad students. They work together in interdisciplinary teams. Companies love that. It's a mix of students. If we're going to do a manufacturing project or marketing project with a manufacturing company, I wouldn't hire 4 marketing students. I wouldn't hire 4 manufacturing engineers. We do a mix of students, and it works really, really well as an interdisciplinary team. So we focus a lot on startups. It's a great opportunity for us to support our companies. We also work with nonprofits, small to global companies. We support university departments and centers who are trying to launch new majors, and a lot of government groups. But internally, we have a lot of campus partners, and it's really focused on commercializing technology at the university. So we support projects with our tech transfer office. our fund that supports faculty commercializing. If they are awarded a $50,000 grant for their commercialization, they get a free SciBiz team to help them look at market validation. We serve a lot of research park companies. We have statewide organizations, both our SBDC and our CIRRUS organizations. We partner with them, work with our extension organization, our startup factory, which is our faculty accelerator. If they come out of demo day, they can apply to win a free project to continue their work. And then we partner with the MBA program. We do a really good job with scoping projects, which is a key to success in some of these student activities. And so we will work with the MBA program. The students in their first year, second semester, all work with a nonprofit to do a service learning project. And we use our SciBiz program to model those projects. This is just kind of our process. The things I'll point out is that scoping is a really important part of a student assignment. If you work with the company and define the scope in a way that the company is going to get value and the students are going to be able to achieve the goals of the project, it starts off the project really great. We train all of our students, they're employees, they're not, it's not a class project. They all have a team lead. We do midpoints and they do final presentations. Obviously, some of the things, students gain great skills. They're working on real stuff, so they like it way better than their class projects. They're learning how to do research. They're learning how to present. And they're getting themselves in front of a lot of potential employers. They learn a lot of tools and resources that will help no matter where they go. They learn how to really essentially run and set a meeting and then learn to be team leaders. So it's just a really great little learning experience. And I would say half the projects we do are focused on either our companies that we're growing here or other small business and startups. Companies love it. They like the flexible timeline. So we no longer are limited to a class semester since it's not a class project. So in the middle of October, if a company has a need, we'll field a team. We have a steady stream of applicants. Students work on multiple projects and they do an amazing job. We charge a flat fee. It's extremely affordable, $6,000 a project. The operations are underwritten by the business college, so he provides facilities and staff. And then we are flexible. Although we're a flat fee program, we do mini projects, we do phase projects. We've had companies have us work with the same team at their company, but do 3 different market segments all simultaneously. And right now we're doing a huge project with our state government on cybersecurity. That's sort of a not to exceed project. So flexibility is the key. And I guess I would say with almost 30 years of student internships, make it easy for the companies to participate. You've got to have guidelines, but the less rules and regulations and paperwork and it inhibits the companies from participating. So we make it real easy for them, try to be flexible with the students and the companies. I always say that students are amazing. I'm sure you all know that, but new companies with new interns feel like they have to micromanage them. And if you just give the students a chance and access to resources, they're way more capable than you ever expect. We hear over and over again that our students exceed the expectations the company had. They have this mindset that, oh man, I don't have time to oversee a student. But if you let them be a part of your company and grow, they can do really amazing work. And the other little thing we've started doing the last few years is we do these lessons learned. So after every internship or project, we bring students together. If it's a team-based project, how did things go? What did we do better? What did you think? And we take those lessons, helpful for us to hear and helpful for them, and they do sort of a 360 view. So again, the name of the game is flexibility, to give students the opportunity to work with companies and make it as easy as we can for both us internally and for the companies to participate. And I'll end there and open to questions.
Judy, that's impressive. A lot of deep experience there. Thank you so much for sharing. There are a few questions in the chat. I know, and you can get to those soon, but one I have is around academic credit. Is there academic credit connected to these internships?
Not anymore. Used to be the case. Now, if a student in the internship program wants to pursue that, we will work with the academic department. They're doing gradable content, right? They're producing information that's gradable. So we leave that to each student in each discipline. Every department has a different rule on what is an interest. We went to a paid model as opposed to an academic credit model, and it's just the results have been way better. But we'll support that if the student wants to pursue it.
Cool. And one other question I have is, this is a big program. How do you staff it? Like, what are the team resources that you have dedicated to this?
So SciBiz has, I would say, 2.5 full-time people that support it. So we have a director and a program. So my very first MBA hire, Alex, was one of the 4 MBA students we hired the first time, and he's now the director of the program. And we've got another student that works with him, or another full-time employee that works with him. And then they also have access to our team in terms of communications, marketing, and then we've got our admin does all of the receivables work, all the billing and invoicing, which is a pretty phenomenal, all the partial billings and things like that. So it's a pretty good sized team. I would say 4 to 6 people that have their hands on these programs to administer.
Awesome. Thanks for all of that. We might have some more questions for you coming soon. And yeah, please do feel free to chime in the chat where you've seen some coming at you already. Next up, I'm going to invite Mike Malloy, who is a colleague of mine at Georgetown University. Like most schools, we saw the benefit of internships, and I asked Mike to help us grow our program a few years ago, and I'll let him tell you what he's been up to. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And let me just share my screen. Oh, hold on a second. Everybody has to have a little bit of technology issues. There we go. So here we go again. There we go. Can you guys see the slides okay?
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for the intro. And I am happy to be here today sharing with all of you what we've built at Georgetown over the past 4+ years. We've been working on the Startup Internship Seminar program. And so we found that, typically students have some standard career paths to go to investment banking, to go work at a big consulting firm. Our goal is to have them make a hard right turn into startup land and to expose them as undergrads and graduate students to what it's like to work at a startup and to get some real world experience to see both if the industry, the role, the type of the size of the company is something that they're interested in. And so we built out our Startup Internship Seminar, which is a 3-credit course. It's available for undergrad and grad students across the university. And it encourages whole person learning through our holistic pedagogy, where we have formal training, experiential training, and developmental training. So students will work during the semester for typically 10 hours a week at a startup or growth stage company. And we'll define that as 1 to about 499 employees. And while they're working there part-time, they will take the class with me, which has been built out with a series of asynchronous training modules. And we teach kind of core professional skills, such as how to send an email and how to go to a meeting and set an agenda and follow up afterwards, how to work remotely. We also train them on things like networking and informational interviews. And a pretty unique part of our program is that we leverage Georgetown's leadership coaching program and actually match each of the students with a certified leadership coach who will meet with them 3 or 4 times throughout the semester to really help them kind of develop their personal leadership skills. How do they, interact and engage with their boss at work, navigate different challenges? I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And so we've really built a 4-sided marketplace, which is exponentially more complex than a 2-sided marketplace, because it's not just students and startups, as all of you are, I'm sure, very familiar with. There's also the academic departments, the university hoops to jump through for credit-bearing courses, and then also building and nurturing partnerships with the overall entrepreneur ecosystem in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, because we're constantly recruiting year-round for companies to host our students. And so one of the key takeaways that I hope you get from this presentation is that you should always be recruiting. Year round, if you are talking to an entrepreneur or an investor who has companies they're working with, or an incubator, hey, do you know anybody who needs interns? Like, I have 300 Georgetown students that want to enroll in my class. And in order to do that, they have to secure an internship offer letter before the end of drop ad period. They can go ahead and register for the course, but I have a very busy August, January, and May, kind of as semesters are starting for the fall, spring, and summer, to make sure that students are matched successfully with those internships. And so another unique element of our program that we've built out is a community of practice where students are completing these training modules, let's say on how to do informational interviews in this case. And then they'll share in a discussion board a link to a Google Doc with the 1 or 2 page reflection for that week's module. And then they're also required to leave comments for at least 2 of their classmates each week. And it kind of creates this ability for multi-directional career mentoring. They're learning from peers. I'm chiming in as well. And what's really cool is that the students get to see what it's like to intern in a bunch of different industries and roles, because we have operations interns, marketing, sales, somebody who's just doing Excel all day, every day. And it gets a little bit of exposure to what they may or may not be interested in. And so one of the ways we built this program is by leveraging technology and using a tool called Linktree. And we literally have one link tree that we send everybody, whether it's a student or a company or anybody who wants to learn about it. We send them to this URL, which I will drop in the chat for you if you want to check it out. And it basically gives step-by-step instructions for companies to sign up. They fill out an Airtable form. We get their information. They immediately get an automated email with instructions on how to post your internship. And so we use Handshake at Georgetown. So we help get them onto Handshake, get them approved as a company if they're not already on there. And then once the post goes live, they fill out another brief Airtable form with a link to the Handshake URL and a little bit about the company. And then that is immediately published on our public-facing website for students. And so that's kind of the company flow. For students, they sign up and express interest in the program. And when they do that, we ask them to upload a resume. They also tell us which semesters they're interested in finding an internship, if there's certain industries or any additional notes they want to share. And I mentioned earlier, we have over 300 students that are in this pool of candidates looking for internships. And something I learned probably heading into year 3 was that we should share that pool with the companies. I was doing a lot of manual matchmaking. Oh, hey, have you talked to Charlie or Sarah's interested in that? We now share that list of resumes with companies, and we politely say, hey, don't email blast 300 students about your opportunity, but pick 3 to 10 that could be a good fit, email them, encourage them to apply, to schedule an interview. Ultimately it's the company and the student have to interview, and a company decides to send them an offer letter. And then once they get the offer letter, they fill out an Airtable form to finalize their internship. And that kind of gives me all the information about the internship. We have a significant amount of internships available on our website, and we do a lot of work again to recruit those companies. But I'll tell you a little bit more about the bring your own internship option in a minute or two. Briefly wanted to just touch on some of the automation tools that we use that I think could be really impactful both for your internship programs as well as everything else you're doing in your entrepreneurship department. I think all of us have kind of small but mighty teams, and we leverage student interns ourselves to get a lot of work done. We organize a lot of our information in Airtable. We communicate via Slack. Linktree has been really helpful to kind of have one central place to send people where they can go a few places. We also use Loom, which is kind of a short video recording tool, and Scribe, which is amazing that spits out kind of a line-by-line SOP on how to do something. So like I recorded a Loom and a Scribe on how to upload a job posting on Handshake, and we share that with the companies, and that the instructions, like I've had several of them like, Mike, that was so helpful to like actually know what I'm doing instead of just like blindly navigating Handshake, which is a little confusing at times. And then I did want to touch on the kind of bring your own internship offer for students, where we know that we don't have all of these startup internship opportunities on the planet. In fact, here's a link to like 10 other websites that have plenty of internships that students can browse and apply to. And so we simply ask that if you find an internship you're interested in outside of our list, email me about it. Send me a link to their website. What's the position description? I'll do a little bit of research, check out their LinkedIn, see how big the company is. Doesn't really work if you're applying to a Marriott internship, but maybe there's a boutique organization, that has 20 employees, and you're going to get to wear a few different hats and be exposed to multiple parts of the company in a fast-paced environment. And what we're really hoping to help students with is that they can identify connections between their major, their minor, the things they're learning in the classroom, and then the actual skills that they need to apply at work. What are their strengths? We have, week 1, they do the Clifton Strengths Finder and develop some self-awareness and think about how they can, bring that to their internship. And with the community of practice, all the students are sharing their strengths with each other, and it's cool to see them like, oh, you've got the individualization strength, so do I. Like, here's how I've used it. What do you think about that? we're hoping, that they're interested in entrepreneurship. We're not saying, hey, students, you should go be the next Mark Zuckerberg and build some, massive company in your dorm room. We're encouraging you to be the 5th or the 25th or the 100th employee at a fast growing company where you're going to get exposed to a lot of things. And we're also hoping that in these internships, you're going to find stuff you hate. Like I have students, I'm like, what do you hate about your internship? Like, what is something you don't want to spend 40 years or even 4 years doing after graduation? You can figure that out in 4 months. That's a victory. And believe it or not, spending all day in Excel is pretty high on the list of things that people don't actually love doing with their time. And so I want to share now a little bit about what the curriculum is that we're teaching. And it's really these practical professional skills that aren't in a standard curriculum or students don't learn in school. I was a computer science major. I got my master's in computer science at Georgetown. All of the stuff we're teaching here, I learned in the real world. I worked at Deloitte. I've had more than 100 interns that I've worked with over the past 15 years. And so, we teach them about habits and kind of how to better design their day and have some healthy habits. We go into what your personal brand is. What do people say about you when you're not in the room? We also touch on kind of mental, emotional well-being, work-life balance. Are you still finding time to go to the gym or spend time with friends? The goal is not that an entrepreneurship internship should be 80-hour weeks during the summer or 20 hours during the semester. Like what is that balance? And the Venn diagram here on Ikigai, if you're not familiar, it's a Japanese principle. What are you good at? What does the world need? What do you love to do? And what will people pay you for? And one of the things I love about teaching this course, and I've done it for about 4 years now, is that students continue to follow up with me after graduation. And I had 2 meetings yesterday with alumni students who are navigating career transitions. One's getting ready to leave McKinsey and start something and wanted some advice. And another one just got a job at Northwestern Mutual as a financial advisor, which wasn't anything he was interested in, but has kind of landed himself there and thinking about how, some of the networking and relationship building skills can play out. So we go into how to work remotely, emails. One of my favorite parts is I have the students call my cell phone and leave a voicemail. And I give them an exact script with like, hi, this is Mike Malloy at Georgetown at 443-694-1545, brief message, and then slowly repeat your name and phone number because nobody wrote down your phone number the first time. And at least 2 students per semester say that's the first voicemail they've left in their life. Like it's not a skill. I have them take a typing test, and if they can't type 60 words a minute, then they have to take some independent typing training. And here's a quick peek just at what one of the modules look like, where there's a few videos. They're going to have some required readings, additional resources, and then there's a quiz. Bi-weekly, we do reflection papers. It's kind of 1 module a night during the semester. 1 module per week, do Sunday night. And over the summer, it's a few every couple of weeks. We go into networking, emotional intelligence, sales, marketing, and presentations towards the end of the semester. And we talk through like, what is your career experience? Part of it is tenure that you can't really control, but your skills, your personal brand, your executive presence. How do you show up? Are you wearing a shirt with a collar or jeans with a hole in them? And if you didn't know, the FedEx logo has an arrow in it. You won't be able to unsee this. I'm just going to slip that in there. And to wrap it up, I talked about leadership coaching as a unique thing that we do that really helps students with that skill building and understanding how they can develop and apply what they're learning in their internship and throughout their career. And I will wrap it up by saying we also give students a LinkedIn badge. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. You're doing a great job. I'm going to hold questions for now, and I'm going to give Emily a chance to give her presentation in just a second, but we'll come back. I can ask you a lot of questions, but keep an eye in the chat. I think there might be something for you there. And we'll get back to you in a few minutes. Before we do that, Mike, you got any good dad jokes? At least one for the crowd here?
Oh, great question, Jeff. Do you know where rainbows go when they're bad?
No.
They go to Prism.
All right. Thank you very much. Mike Malloy will be here all week. Okay. Mike's been telling dad jokes for years, but recently he became a dad, so it's now legit. With that, we will welcome up Emily Doyle from DePaul University. Emily, take it away.
Okay, I'm loving those dad jokes, Mike. Hang on 1 second. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can you see that okay? Okay, great. Well, thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here from DePaul University Coleman Entrepreneurship Center. I've been running our internship program for about 5 years and just seen it grow so much in interest from students and interest from organizations, and the word is out about the opportunities. So I'm excited to talk to you about where we're at today. Our mission at the Coleman Center is to empower, engage, and accelerate our students, our alumni, and our community members. And we do that in a number of ways through pitch competitions, programs, workshops, a venture fund, and also this internship program. So the CEC internship program, we sponsor students. The biggest, most important thing is that this is a hands-on, meaningful, experiential opportunity for the student. Really want it to be something they're going to take away and be able to speak to and learn from. We start the process. I started early with some fundraising to identify how many students I can bring into the program, because some of the organizations pay for the interns. Many are not able to pay for the internship, the stipend that goes with it. And then the CEC covers some as well. So I create a startup tree application. We use startup tree, probably similar to Linktree, for an organization application and a student application. We had over 100 applicants this year. From there, I interview students, I select students for the program. We run it between June and August and try and make it really flexible as far as hours. It's 125 hours for the program over the course of the summer. The students paid $2,000 stipend, but we leave it to the organization and the student to pick the hours that work best for them. Some benefits are they work closely with the founder, they have a mentor. We do monthly, I treat it like a cohort, and we do monthly check-ins with the group of students. We have a LinkedIn group, and we also use a Slack channel to kind of have, to build some camaraderie and some collaboration. So oftentimes students will be doing social media marketing. And so we created, like this year, we have a lot of students doing that. So we created a channel just for people doing social media marketing where they can share best practices and ideas and ask each other questions. Oftentimes they're working for companies that are really, really small. And so to leverage one another and that network has been beneficial. This also, as Mike mentioned, this can qualify for an experiential course we have at DePaul. You have to have an internship to take this 10-week course. And so some students will go ahead and take the 4-unit course over the summer alongside their internship. So some of the key benefits to the students, it's experiential learning opportunity in their field of study. They earn a summer stipend. They get really good mentoring and close access to the founder on these projects. They have networking with their peers. And as a couple of people mentioned, it's been a really good opportunity for international students in particular to have that chance to work off campus. We also hire them as a DePaul employee and pay them the stipend directly through us. So it just opens the doors for international students that have a lot of regulations around where they can work, especially the first year, to have those chances to, work with different companies. We have students working all over Chicago. We also, because of everything that came out of COVID, a lot of remote and hybrid opportunities. So this year we have students working internationally, and we have an internship in Paris. We have a couple in Toronto. We had one in Spain. So just kind of broadening that scope of what the internship can look like. And of course, there's so many benefits to organizations. They get access to talented DePaul students from all academic areas of study. And we do a lot of work on the back end, creating questions on the application to figure out, what are the needs of the organization and what are the skill sets of the students, so that we can do the best to make those matches and interview process really successful. We handle all of the logistics and the hiring paperwork for the company. So that's a huge benefit, especially as was mentioned, these really early stage startups with 1 or 2 employees. We take that off of their plate and we handle the hiring paperwork and we pay the stipend to the students directly. The organizations that do pay, they make a tax deductible donation to the CEC, which they like. And of course, they deepen their connection with the DePaul community. And oftentimes these startups really need the help and have a lot of great, the student can put on a lot of different hats, learn a lot of different things, but they just can't afford to pay them because they're so young. So it just is it's a really good balance of giving help to the startups that need it and giving students these super hands-on early stage company opportunities to learn. So this summer we had 70 students apply and 60 organizations apply, and I placed 36 interns this summer, which is our biggest program we've had to date. We have internships in all different areas, in marketing, a lot of data science, data analytics, sales and business development, graphic design, digital marketing, and social media management have been very popular. Something that I love and I think is really cool is that we have 8 of the founders hosting interns are actually from our social impact incubator program that we run in the winter. So it's a really nice pipeline and connection opportunity for these founders to go through the incubator program and then be able to offer them an intern that can, help them with the work that they've been going through the boot camp working towards. This summer, we had 10 companies pay for their intern. We fundraised throughout the year to cover 20 internships, and then we covered an additional 6. And we have a nice variety, a diverse group of students. We have 16 undergraduate students and 20 graduate students this summer. Some feedback from our organizations. Megan Newfer actually went through one of our impact incubator programs, and she runs a company called Maven. And that's what she had to say about her student intern, Jackie, that as was mentioned, they give them minimal direction and a lot of autonomy, and a lot of students really thrive with that, as long as there's a lot of check-ins, by myself included, but also it's important to the mentor and the manager of the intern is really hands-on as far as checking in and setting expectations of what needs to get done. And then a quote on the bottom is from one of our international students, just to highlight how that's been so wonderful for us to be able to give them access to those opportunities. So he is having an internship at ISTC as a data science intern. Some challenges and opportunities, it's not a perfect process. I communicate early and often with the students. I do initial matches, but then I always have students do interviews with the founders and do check-ins to ensure that, it's a good fit for both parties. In the beginning of this summer, I had to make a change within the first week. It wasn't a good fit. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board, and I put the student at a different organization, and that's been going really well. I'd love to find ways to streamline the matching process. It's a lot of, me kind of going through and acting almost as a human resource professional, trying to do these matches and doing my best to make sure it's a good fit. And as we scale the program, we're looking to kind of scale it at the college level. And there's some interest from our dean to bring this into a more, a format that's throughout the year, and kind of transitioning it to take over by the college. We also have a lot of interest beyond the summer from students that are looking for internships throughout the year. So we've been talking to some larger companies about sponsoring internship programs throughout the academic year for smaller groups of students, maybe 10. And then it's just continues to be super important to gather metrics and get feedback from the students and the organizations, gather data to inform how we're going to change and address issues and change and continue into future programs. Oops, and that's everything. Let's see.
That's great, Emily. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions for you, and then we'll invite Judy and Mike back in, and all 4 of us can have a little conversation. But if you could collect whatever data, what would be your top choices of data that you would like to get from this program?
I'd like to know about, how students feel about the the projects that were outlined, how, we give them a scope of the project in the beginning of the internship. I'd love to know how that really how that really worked out at the end. Did they feel like they were given these tasks, and was the project what they expected? Are the expectations set? Were they actually, executed? I'd like to get information, of course, on the organizations if we're going to work with them again. Were the projects meaningful? Did they have open communication? And just overall, like, smoothness of the program and the process. We're always working to make it better. And so, just gathering quantitative and qualitative data on all of those things so that we can use that to improve the program.
Awesome. All right, I got another question for you. And then in fact, I'll ask the same question of Judy and Mike too. And this one is coming from the chat. It's
Okay.
around career centers. How do you interact with career services programs at your university? And I'll let Emily go first, and then Judy and Mike.
So this program that we run really runs separate from the Career Center. They do use Handshake, and they do a great job of posting internships, and then students go and they can apply. They don't manage that process as much as it is just a platform where students can go see what's available and organizations can post. So sometimes I do direct organizations to the Career Center. This program has been really popular, I think, because it's more hands-on, and we manage that process and communicate directly with the organization and student and try and make it a good fit and continue to check in throughout. So we definitely communicate with the Career Center, but this runs separately from what they do.
Awesome. And Judy, how about at Iowa State? You've had this program going for a long time. And as you mentioned, you've engaged lots of different organizations across the state of Iowa over time. How do you interact with the Career Center?
So we have 7 colleges at the university. We work with all 7, and we recruit students from all 7, but I would say roughly 40–50% of our students are business college students. So we are one of the business college's top employers, just with the number of students we bring through the programs. We exhibit at career fairs just like a company would. It helps us connect to companies, and it helps us recruit students. But I would also say we also utilize them when we're looking for a specific skill set. So if we're doing a project and we really need an ag student, we partner with the person who directs it and say, hey, here's a new project we're doing, a new company that's looking for an intern. We need this skill set. Can you help? And then they will disseminate it amongst their group. So it's a very two-way positive relationship that we have. So we use each other when we need it, and it works really, really well. So we just communicate.
Excellent. And Mike, can you talk about how the program you run interacts with the different career centers at Georgetown?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a few different career centers, and we view them all as partners. We call them kind of communication partners, and have a nice spreadsheet of folks who can amplify our messaging. They'll put them in their email newsletters, both information about the program to make students aware and interested, as well as we do a startup career fair virtually on Zoom to bring companies and students together. So we get the career fairs to help with those. They also have a ton of resources that we don't in terms of preparing students for interviews, helping them with resumes. That's kind of outside of our scope. And so we definitely lean on them for that.
Cool. Mike's being diplomatic too. I'll say career centers are good partners, but sometimes they really just don't understand entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurial students often don't respect the career center, right? They think they're just there for big company jobs. So they are a good partner, but sometimes we have to kind of fill in the gaps of things they don't do. I'll add one other thing is our MBA program at Georgetown does not support this particular internship program. We do help MBAs find startup interns, but they're not allowed to take the class that Mike teaches. The faculty in that program decided that class wasn't the right fit for their students. So Mike's done a lot of work building relationships around different parts of the university, but some parts are more amenable than others to working with us on this particular program.
Wow, that's interesting. So we have our business college assigned somebody only to work with entrepreneurial students. So we have a dedicated career service person now that facilitates entrepreneur experiences for students, which is awesome.
That's great. We've had folks that want to help, but it's just not their normal business model, I think. So that's the bigger challenge. All right. So I'm going to ask this question for any of you. What's something that really went wrong or a mistake that you made along the way, or a problem that you ran into, and any lesson that you might share that might help other schools avoid the same kind of thing. Was there a
Yeah.
particular student experience that was bad, or a company that did something wrong, or anything else that you might want to share around that?
Oh, all right. I got two. One was the first year we did all the matching manually. And Emily, it might sound like you're kind of still living through this. And it was super hard. I was going through all of them and like personally being like, oh, you should apply here. By year two, we made it an open marketplace. There's supply, demand, that let them facilitate it, send people reminders to post jobs, to apply to jobs. And, I think that freed up a lot of our time and energy to be able to serve more students, because we weren't just like, as in the weeds on an individual intern match working. So I would say that was one big lesson. And now it's much more automated with Linktree, and I just send people the link and they're going to flow through it. And then I have reminders to nudge some people as deadlines get close.
Like, I totally agree. And when we were smaller, it really worked well. But now as we're scaling and like 36 students, we're finding different ways, algorithms and other things, technology to help us kind of with that matching process, and putting the onus on the students, I think is also, helping them to make decisions about having their buy-in is really helpful too, because then they're not like, oh, you matched me with this company and it went south. And, they had some buy-in and ownership in what they wanted to do. And that's been helpful too. So I've been doing that a little bit more this summer. But
Yeah, I follow up on that with we got rid of the matching partly because we would post positions within our career posting service for the companies. And with the new platform, they said, you can't do that. They've got to do their own. Ended up being the best decision in the end, because the companies post what they're looking for, and then they're involved in that selection process, and it's better for the students, better for the companies. We really just facilitate the money and promoting the opportunities. So it's been a real positive change. I know that was a question in the chat. It's like I let the website do a lot of the work, but as far as bad experiences, there are the occasional students, and when we were statewide, if student wasn't showing up, people give students a benefit of doubt for some time, and then you find out too late that, hey, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. We've brought it all very close to home. All of our internships are here at our research park. So we know the companies, we know the students, we can touch base, we see them. That's been really, really positive. And then with our team projects, we have weekly check-ins. They work here at our office. And so that not necessarily looking over them, but being available for all those questions so that they can be more successful in the project.
And does anybody run into challenges with companies trying to get into the program, a company that doesn't really fit the definition of entrepreneurial, or, in your mind, they're not really right for the program? And how do you manage that?
All the time.
same here.
All the time. We made it easy. You have to be a research part tenant or affiliate. And if you don't have that relationship, we can't help you. But here's another program that might be able to help you. And that, again, bringing that close to home helped us manage that.
Yeah, I would say that we've definitely, with the application process and reviewing that, every year I feel like I start this process earlier and earlier and earlier. And it's important because when I'm vetting these companies, I'm really looking for key things. Like, the most important thing to me is the student going to have a great experience or not? And so maybe a company is able to pay, but that doesn't, to me, that's not the end all be all situation. So it's, we've passed on a lot of companies that is just not the right fit. And so, we just have a thorough process and rubric that we use, and a team that goes through pretty meticulously these applications to try and ensure we're working with good partners. And a lot of times we do know the organizations because they've been through our programs or are connected with us through other networks, but occasionally, we don't. And so I just try and keep that communication line open.
Yeah, I would just add on that too, that we don't just have geographically nearby companies, because a lot of our internships are remote during the school year, especially we did it during COVID, and then we've kept it because it means you can work for a Bay Area startup or, folks in different markets. The best companies tend to be the ones who come back every semester, and they know they're going to get good interns from us. Like, I have somebody who, well, I hope Northwestern isn't on this call, but like who went to Northwestern and was like, I don't even hire Northwestern students anymore. I just want my Georgetown startup interns because the quality is there. And kind of building that reputation of, hey, we're going to give you somebody good. And then we also know the founders and know the people they're going to be working with, and I think that adds value and also gets a repeat match. So you're not finding brand new companies every semester to host the interns.
Awesome. And I had asked Emily this question, but maybe Mike or Judy around the data you collect. And so Mike, what kind of data do you collect at the end of each cycle to kind of figure out what's working and what's not working?
Yeah, great question, Jeff. We have both quantitative and qualitative data, about the interns' experience with the company. What was the good, what was the not so good. I also get feedback on the course and, what do they enjoy about it? What can we do to improve it? And I think every semester for the past 3 years, I've added a new module or new content because students, when I check in with them, I'm like, where do you need help or support that isn't provided by the company and by the existing training materials? So we added a LinkedIn module recently, and this summer I put together some Excel resources because students were saying, hey, I need help with this. And I think getting the user feedback is really important. We're very entrepreneurial, constantly kind of iterating on what else can we do to make it a better experience for the students. I think Emily and Judy both said this, how can we make this a rewarding and fulfilling student experience? And the data we collect helps inform that with kind of a end of semester survey.
Let's see, we got a little bit of time. There's a question around insurance, especially I guess if your school becomes the employer. How do you manage things like employment law and insurance and hiring? Is it just simply their employees like any other university employee or student employee, or is there any other kind of nuances to that? And I'll kick that one over to Judy and Emily.
Yeah, student employees. So all the same rules. They can work no more than 20 hours a week. They can work no more than 40 when school's not in session. It's all managed through Workday. We know exactly what the time they're putting in. They log in and out. They're great. So it's become really, really easy. And then I think I'd mentioned in the chat, but we track all their time. We employ them, and at the end of the semester, then we build a company for their portion of it. And we know exactly what it is. And we don't have any issues. It's kind of nice getting them on board. We got to go through. We just send them to HR, take your I-9 forms and do everything else. And so we know they're legit, employable, and then the software does all the work for us.
Yeah, we hire all our students through Blue Sky, which is what DePaul uses, and they're DePaul employees, and we pay them a stipend. I will say, I worked with the Office of General Counsel when we were setting this up, and they did recommend using a lot of language around not tying hours to payments. And so keeping it as a stipend was really important, tied to the program to offset the cost of the program. That was a big piece for us anyways, but yep, they're hired just through DePaul as anybody would, and companies love that, not having to deal with that logistics and hassle. So it works out well. It's very clean because it's all in the system. So
I know these experiences, we find so many of our students learn in the classroom, and through so many of our programs are focused on how do you start a company, right? How do you be an entrepreneur? But having this experience of working inside a startup as an intern is just so valuable, right? I think that's why we're all here talking about this and learning about this. We really have invested a lot at Georgetown in this effort because I think it's like the idea of someone starting a company without ever having seen the inside of a startup. It's similar to, learning how to drive a car without ever having been in a passenger seat of a car. Right. And I think that's what so many of our entrepreneurship programs really emphasize, the idea of a founder. But giving them an experience inside a startup is so valuable in so many ways, whether they ever want to be a founder or not. So we find tremendous amount of interest from students. A lot of folks on our panel mentioned international students, right? And there's labor laws and employment laws and visa laws, I guess. A lot of it's around student visas. How do you guys manage that? What are the nuances that you've learned about international students, and why are they attracted to these programs, and what challenges do you have getting them matched in? I'll let anybody that wants to jump in on that.
I will real quickly say I have learned so much about international visa law in the past year and a half that I never knew I would know. And these internships are super attractive for the international students because a big part, and a lot of it is grad students as well, especially that summer between year 1 and year 2 of a grad program. They need 2 semesters of US academic work to qualify, and then they need to be earning credits, which is why we have the 3 credit option. And we tell them to talk to OGS, which probably is the Office of Global Studies, as soon as they know they're interested. Their dean or department head, director of graduate studies, has to approve a CPT authorization form. They need an offer letter. We even have an offer letter template that we give companies, and we give the students to give the companies, that has every variable they have to have in the offer letter, with start date and end date and role responsibilities, number of hours, maybe a couple other things, address, to get that CPT authorization. And then without fail, there's a few students who can't start the original start date because it took too long to get CPT because they turned it in late. So I would encourage a proactive approach there for the international students. And that's a lot of the grad students that I work with are getting that US experience.
Awesome. All right. I apologize. We are running out of time. So please join me in thanking our panelists. Thank you to Mike, Emily, and Judy for sharing so much about the internship programs they run. I really, really appreciate all that. I'm now gonna turn it over to Holly D. Armand, our wonderful leader of the GCEC. I did have a slide, but I'll just let her talk without my slides up. So Holly, tell us what's coming up with GCEC.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you. Hi, everyone. Great to see you today. Well, what is upcoming is our early bird registration deadline for the conference. So if you're getting lots of emails from me, it's all about registering for our fall conference. It's October 5th through 7th at UT Dallas. So we'll be in Dallas, Texas this year on their campus. It's going to be great. But yeah, definitely register soon so you can go to more panels like this. We have 2.5 days of panels just like this, where you get expert advice and you're sharing what's worked and what hasn't worked. But definitely register by August 15th if you want that discounted rate. Book your hotel room. I know it's a busy weekend in Dallas, Texas when we're there in October, so make sure you do that as well. So yeah, the conference is the focus of the GCEC right now. But before I say goodbye, we do have to thank Jeff Reed. He continues to moderate these monthly, most months. So thank you, Jeff, for moderating. And Nadine Bentis, she is the person behind the scenes, our program manager at GCEC that's making all this happen. So thanks to Jeff and Nadine, as well as the panel. And that's it for me, Jeff.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks again to our panelists. We'll hopefully see so many of you in Dallas in October, and also at our next webinar, which I do have a plug for. Hold on. Our next webinar is August 28th. August 28th, and we're going to talk about arts entrepreneurship. So come back August 28th, arts entrepreneurship, and then October in Dallas. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Stay cool.